EA recently announced that a new Battlefield game will be coming in 2018. So I thought it'd be fun to speculate a little bit and also tell you guys what I want in the next Battlefield game. There have been plenty of speculation as to what the next Battlefield game will be because there are plenty of things that they could do for the next Battlefield game. They could just make Battlefield 5 be a modern sequel to Battlefield 4, which I guess would make sense because in 2018, Battlefield 4 will be a 5-year-old game. So I guess it would make sense for them to make a modern sequel to Battlefield 4 instead of it being kind of like a spin-off like Battlefield 1 was. I do think it's possible, but something's telling me that's not what they're going to do. Because if they just release another modern shooter, you're not going to get as many people excited as you would if you, let's say, made another game that would have a very interesting setting for the Battlefield series, take the series in a new direction, and not just be another run-of-the-mill modern shooter. Because I think we've had enough of those. And we've also had enough of futuristic shooters. I know it's been a very long time since Battlefield has had a futuristic setting. That would be Battlefield 2142, which was released in 2006. So that would be 11 years ago. So obviously, the mechanics are very outdated. And they could use modern technology to their advantage and make a well-refined, futuristic Battlefield shooter. But I hope they're not stupid enough to do that because people do not like futuristic shooters. People are tired of them and do not want to see more of them. People were starting to get tired of futuristic shooters when Advanced Warfare came out, and that was 3 years ago. All of the futuristic Call of Duties have done very poorly critically, and their sales have been fine, but not nearly as good as, let's say, the Modern Warfare days and the Black Ops days. Last generation, because I think ever since Ghost came out, Call of Duty has failed to break sales records, and it's no coincidence that every single Call of Duty game since Ghosts have been futuristic, because Call of Duty sales used to be on an upward trend. Every single time they had a new release, the game outsold the previous one. So obviously COD 4 outsold every single Call of Duty game. I believe World at War outsold Call of Duty 4, or at least came very close to outselling Call of Duty 4. And then Modern Warfare 2 outsold all the Call of Duties. Then Black Ops 1 outsold MW2. Then MW3 outsold... You see what I'm saying? So say what you want about EA, but I think they're smart enough to realize that making another futuristic shooter is not a very good investment, especially since... Just look at the sales of Titanfall. I mean, that's really supposed to be EA's main futuristic shooter. Hasn't been making a lot of money for them. Obviously, the first one didn't make a lot of money for them because they decided not to release the first Titanfall on the PS4, and typically on most multi-platform games, the PlayStation 4 version always sells the most. But then Titanfall 2 came along, released on all platforms, and it still wasn't very impressive. And it is a futuristic shooter, so I don't think EA is stupid enough to make the next Battlefield game just a futuristic shooter. I can't see them being stupid enough to do that. I get it that Titanfall is different from Battlefield. Battlefield is more large-scale battles with aircraft and shit. But, I mean, come on. Do you guys really want a futuristic Battlefield game? Because if you do, I can certainly guarantee that I can find a lot more people that do not. If they release a trailer for the next Battlefield game being futuristic, I guarantee you there are probably going to be more dislikes than likes. So no, I do not expect the next Battlefield game to be futuristic, nor do I want it to. Okay, so we covered Battlefield 5, and we covered, let's say, Battlefield 2143, I guess you would call it. I don't know. There's also speculation that the next Battlefield game is going to be Battlefield 1944 or some kind of World War II-esque Battlefield game, which I also hope does not happen because Battlefield 1, although it took place in World War I, it felt more like World War II because you had so many fully automatic weapons, and it was so fast-paced that it was more inspired by the Second World War than I felt it was inspired by the First World War. I mean, obviously the maps and all the different settings in the game were based off of World War I, but the gameplay and the weapons felt more World War II-esque, in my opinion. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Battlefield 1's problems have nothing to do with fully automatic weapons, I don't think. It has more to do with the lack of content, which has always been a problem with Battlefield games. I think they did a great job with Battlefield 4, because the game was supported until, like, last year. which is pretty great for an EA game. So I think the level of content in Battlefield 4 was really good, but Battlefield 1's content, not so much. It's taken so long just for one DLC to come out. And for people who haven't bought the DLCs or the premium pass, the game gets boring after a few weeks, you know what I mean? So it's not very replayable, not as much as old Battlefield games were at least. But I don't know, I guess it's possible if they're going to make a World War II based Battlefield game, which I guess would make sense, but I do not want to see it happen at all. It would just pretty much be Battlefield 1 reskinned into World War II. And let's just see, though, if they do make a World War II shooter, if they ban swastikas and do all this bullshit that Activision has done. We'll see. I do not think that's the direction that they're going to go. It is possible, but I don't think it is. And I certainly do not want to see a World War II Battlefield game in 2018. No. I want Battlefield Bad Company 3. 2018 would be almost a decade since the first Bad Company game came out, and like 8.5 years since the second one came out. So we're definitely overdue for a sequel in the Bad Company series. I think the Bad Company series is amazing. I thought the first one was but the second one was amazing. Their multiplayer was fantastic. Battlefield Bad Company 2 was actually what got me into the Battlefield series in the first place. Most people I know, their first Battlefield game was Battlefield 3 or something like that. My first Battlefield was Bad Company 2, and man, that was, honestly, I think that's the greatest Battlefield game of all time so far. Bad Company 2 also happened to have one of the greatest DLCs of all time, which was its Vietnam expansion, which felt like a brand new game. It was incredible. Honestly, one of the best DLCs of all time. Definitely the best multiplayer DLC of all time. Vietnam was amazing. The base game was even more amazing. I absolutely loved Battlefield Bad Company 2's multiplayer. Absolutely loved it. So if they brought it back, maybe modernize it a little bit, because it's been 8 years, so obviously they can do a lot more things with it, maybe make it even more destructible than ever, and just make it crazy, then it's going to be a great game, and it's going to be very successful, because Battlefield Bad Company 2 was very successful, and that was even before Battlefield became like incredibly mainstream. Battlefield 3 is really when Battlefield started becoming extremely mainstream, so Battlefield Bad Company 2 was like kind of before that. Also, can't forget that the single player was hilarious, great writing, funny writing. It would actually make single player in Battlefield worth playing, which is a very rare thing, because typically single players in Battlefield games are pretty bad. I think Bad Company 2 had probably the best campaign out of all the Battlefield games, because it didn't take itself so seriously, and it actually had like funny writing that was memorable. Because what do you guys actually remember from Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4's campaign mode? What do you really remember from that compared to all the funny moments in Bad Company 2? I don't know, that's just my opinion. I think Bad Company 2 had better writing. But the point is that if they release Bad Company 3 next year, if that's the next game that they plan, it would be very commercially successful. It would probably have one of the best multiplayers in Battlefield history. It would probably have one of the best campaigns, and it would just be a great experience. And I really hope that's what they go for, because I have so many great memories with Bad Company 2, and if they just make a sequel that's even better, it would be fucking awesome. I mean, next year would be 2018. That would be 8 years since we got a Bad Company, so it's definitely overdue. I hope we get that. That's all I have to say. I hope to hell that we get a Bad Company 3. I really do. And I know there are a lot of people who agree with me. But that remains to be seen if that's the route they're going. I hope it is, and something's telling me that I think that they are, just because of how long it's been since we've gotten a Bad Company game and how successful the last Bad Company game was. So I think it's possible. If they really want to make a modern shooter, though, that would probably be the best route to go, because if they just make Battlefield 5, it would kind of be lackluster. It would kind of be boring. It wouldn't be anything new. So I think Bad Company 3 would be the best fit for the Battlefield series right now. But let me know what you guys think. If you agree or disagree, let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. See you guys later.